Call to order the regular meeting of Stokes County Commissioners, Monday, March the 10th at 6 p.m. Brad will have.
Please stand. Lord, we're gathered here tonight to conduct the people's business here in Stokes County. Please give us the humility and the patience and also the courage to listen, as well as research, respond, and treat each other with respect. Thank you for allowing us to live in this great country, the United States of America, where we have a political voice and we have a right of free speech. As is very evident tonight, we have a nice crowd, which is good, to give us their opinion of what is going on in Stokes County. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I get approval of the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public comments, I'll turn over to Amber.
So we'll just read the rules for public comments. Each speaker shall be allowed 4 minutes for public comments with the option to yield time to another speaker or add an optional minute depending on the number of speakers that have signed up while abiding by the 30-minute total time limit. All speakers shall maintain good decorum and show respect and good manners. Vulgar language, profanity, inappropriate gestures, insults, personal attacks, accusations, and inflammatory language is prohibited. The chairman of the board shall enforce these rules, and anyone not complying with the rules shall not be allowed to continue. At their discretion, members of the Board of Commissioners may address items from the public comments portion during the commissioner comment period. All right, first up is Sally Knox.
Hi, my name is Sally Knox, and I am just here to give my time to my husband, Glenn Knox. Thank you.
Okay, Glenn Knox.
Good evening. It's good to be seen and not viewed. The last year and a half has been a recovering period for me. It's been the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I was in a deep coma for 5 days, and many times I wondered if I was going to be saved and why I was eventually saved. Now that I'm on this side of it, I spent all my brain power trying to figure out everything that's happened in the last 4 years. When I was working here for you, I got to see the underbelly of everything here in this government. I gleaned through the entire budget, talked with all the department heads, and saw many places where it could be changed and save money. I walked around this room alone and scanned those pictures over there and basically just walked around thinking when I was disturbed by something I saw. I actually planned to speak at the last meeting now, and I'm glad I didn't. Now, what I call phase one. Amber. This is a video from February 24th from the last meeting that you had.
Okay, getting back to the misinformation that I mentioned earlier, that is being primarily directed at three of us up here. Someone sent me a social media post the other day that read in part, and I'll quote, Rick Morris, Keith Woods, and Brad Chandler sent out a mailer when they ran for office promising lower taxes, new hospitals, and better benefits. They are now 3 for 3 in failing Stokes County. Let's examine these three charges individually. Number one, I can assure you that I never promised to lower taxes when I was running for office.
Those pamphlets that were passed around are copies or scans of the flyers that were sent out by you three. Said in the first line says to lower taxes. The second pamphlet on there is a card from Rick Morris that says I plan to lower taxes. Then at the bottom is Rick's own website that says, I plan to lower taxes. You have the link there. It'll be scrubbed by the time he leaves. But anyway, I'm really disappointed that you guys campaign on lowering taxes. I think everybody in the county is. And you're about to raise them. Now, categorically denying that you did it is one thing. Actually telling everybody why you did it is a different story. And anytime that I catch you in doing stuff like this, you're going to see me standing up here. And I'm sorry to take up this much time, but I wanted to make sure that I came here and I explained to you that I will not, now that I'm healthy, I will not allow stuff like this to happen. And the question is now, are you going to get reelected after all this is revealed? That's up to you guys now. I hope you have a good night.
Rhonda Jones.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here to speak on the tax revals as well. As you know, the citizens have in the last 4 years dealt with a devastating pandemic, a 5-cent increase in property taxes, and record inflation not seen in over 40 years. In our demographics alone, we have over 10% living below the poverty line. We have roughly 25% elderly, with many being widowed, as well as living on a fixed income. Now we are faced with property revals that I was told by Commissioner the average would be 30%. However, it is actually 41.5%, meaning that there are some with even higher revals. This is outrageous and it's unfair. With an exception of a few, no citizen has an income that has increased at this pace. Listing prices for real estate have been off the charts. In fact, the listing prices are unrealistic relative to the property tax values coupled with the rise in interest rates. What we are experiencing is a trend that has already shown signs of crashing. This does not bode well for our citizens. We can understand the need to decrease the gap in tax values in the current real estate market and the fact North Carolina is third in the nation for the out-of-state migration. But this is simply too severe for our county citizens. To the native citizens that have faithfully held this county up for generations, it feels like a complete betrayal. You are, as the saying goes, kicking us when we're already down. Despite the development in some parts of the county, we are still a rural county with few good jobs available. In short, most either work for the county government or drive a 2-hour round trip for employment. We've been told your intentions are to be revenue neutral. To be truly revenue neutral, to keep it simple and fair to all, would require that all properties be increased by the same percentage rate. Otherwise, the tax rate will have to be adjusted on a case-by-case review, which is laborious, confusing, and costly to the taxpayer as well as the county, mostly not fair to all citizens. We strongly encourage you to change course, decide on a straight across the board increase, and offset the lowering of the tax rate accordingly. This method may be a departure from the norm, but it serves its purpose of closing the gap of property tax values of surrounding counties. Also offset the increase by lowering the tax rate by incentivizing people to move and build in this county, resulting in a larger tax base. In closing, we respectfully request during this season year's budget that you commit to revenue neutral by implementing a fixed property reval increase not to exceed 30% across the board, to offset by the reduction of the current tax rate. Lastly, that this commitment be honored prior to passing the budget to relieve the citizens of further worry and restore faith in your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marsha Marshall. Okay. Thank you. Michael Spencer.
This was last minute. I'm just here to say you're doing a good job. Yeah, I keep hearing people all the time complain about tax rate. None of us want it to go up, but I also hear everybody complaining about what they don't have, what they want. Everybody wants something, but they don't want to pay nothing for it. And I know it's got to go up at some point. I mean, it's going up every other counties I know people are at. They're getting everybody's going up, and they're all going up higher than we're going up. But I know you're trying your best with what you got to work with and what you came in on and what you have to clean up. And nothing's free. And then the economy on top of it doesn't help. It makes it look even worse. And that's all I wanted to say.
That concludes public comments.
Okay, we'll go to comments by commissioners. Ladies first.
All right. I'd just like to thank everybody for being here tonight, and for those who spoke during public comments for expressing what you feel. And I don't disagree with most everything that was said. I know we've got some things to look at and to try to fix during budget, and look at this revenue neutral, which I'm in favor of. So hopefully we can reach some good conclusions there. And that is, I just appreciate y'all coming out and expressing your thoughts and participating in the process. I'm excited to recognize our Eagle Scouts tonight, and appreciate them and all that means and the things that they're doing. And I'll just pass it on. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to see all of you here tonight, and like Commissioner Cox said, I like seeing people come out and voice their opinion about different things. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to hear your concerns. And I hope on the tax part that we're able to do something that'll be neutral line for all the citizens. And I didn't know the exact number till she spoke. I knew there were several elderly people that lived in our county, and I didn't realize that number was that high, 25%, but they definitely are like on fixed incomes, and those folks, they need our help. So that's what we're here to do, is to help these folks. And I'd like to send a special prayer out today to several families in our county. Being with the fire service, you get to hear more of it than the other commissioners. There's been a loss of life in our county this past week, several people. I've been to 4 different funeral homes, and they're right here in our county. So it's been a tragic week for our county with loss of lives from young people to elderly people. And I just want to send a special prayer to those families. May the Lord touch them and heal them and comfort them, and they'll find peace in their hearts. And again, I appreciate everyone being here.
Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to welcome everybody. It's great to see a big crowd here tonight. And as the other said, we always appreciate your input and your opinions, whether we agree with them or not. I think this board's made it clear we're into free speech in a big way, and we will continue to be. Last meeting that we had, one thing too, Glenn, I appreciate you bringing the hard copies of this. I only ever got one copy of the top one, and I lost, and I've thrown away all my little ones too. So that'll make it a little more make it a little easier for me to read, to refer to. Hey, last meeting, I'm gonna take a little more time than everybody else, so you guys just gonna have to get used to that. I decided to do a little thing called the no spin zone at the last meeting. The reason I did that was to refute misinformation that's being posted about our commissioner board members on social media platforms. And it's been going on now for a couple of years pretty much unchallenged, and I think it's time for that to stop. My no spin zone brought the spin doctors out, as I kind of expected, out of the woodwork. And so I think I'll continue again this week with the theme of misinformation for this second edition of the No Spin Zone. I'd like to start by reading a post from Miss Shelley Hightower Carter that was put out since our last meeting, and she says, I'm reading from my phone, so I got to go back and forth a little bit, so bear with me if you would. It says, it has come to my attention that County Commissioner Rick Morris has chosen to address me indirectly from his official platform, using his position to advance political rhetoric. He has suggested that an unnamed individual has misrepresented his campaign promises, accusing them of duplicity. Those familiar with my character will recognize that this approach may not have been in the wisest course or action on his part. For those who attended Monday's meeting, Mr. Morris asserted that he never pledged to refrain from raising taxes. However, evidence exists to the contrary, which I can provide. This behavior exemplifies the archetype, which is an interesting word that I had to look up, but she used it correctly. Exemplifies the archetype of a conventional politician. Whoever felt compelled to show him my last post, please show him this and let him know there will be handouts available for everyone at the next commissioner meeting. So I assume you're working for Shelley, Glenn, and you brought the handouts. Okay, I appreciate that. First of all, let me talk about the cards that are represented on this handout that Glenn. The first card, I mentioned that I only received one of them because in reality, none of us candidates had anything to do with that card. You don't address me, Glenn, I'm talking, okay? This card, if you'll notice, the side of it's cut off, and also on the little card that you gave from me, where you would probably find the information of who paid for it. This card was put out by some sort of a PAC here in Stokes County. And by the way, it's illegal for us to participate or interact with a PAC. So we have nothing to do with that top card. It's irrelevant. However, I'll go through it with the folks that can't see it. It has pictures of the three of us down the side with a little bit of biographical information. And then it says, their plan is the title of it. If I'd been wording it, I would say their goals probably instead of their plan. But like I said, I have no knowledge or involvement with this card. The next sub-bullets under it, it says lower taxes and support existing businesses. That should be a goal for any Republican, I would say. A fight to keep prayer before commissioner meeting and keep Stokes County a Second Amendment sanctuary. That's another good goal. Countywide broadband. That's almost my number one goal and has been for the last several years. Attack and drug and overdose problem, another great goal and one that we have signed up to try to do and address. And keep the hospital in Danbury open and keep a 24/7 emergency room in King. So then I'll go down to the card the second card that Glenn included on the handout. And the title of it is My Plan for a Second Term. This card I did pay for, and it does reflect my true intentions and beliefs as to what I plan to do as a commissioner. And the first bullet on it says lower the property tax rate. It doesn't say lower property taxes. It says lower the property tax rate. That's what we can do as commissioners. It says build a new hospital in Danbury. It says build a 24/7 emergency room in King. It says finish internet expansion now for the unserved. And it says attack drug and overdose problem in the county. And that's all of the things that we've been working on, and I think quite successfully. So now let me shift over to another item. This one, as you folks are probably aware, every time we run, we go to the interact with the Stokes News, and they ask us a series of questions that they put in the paper to help the voters understand where we're coming from and what our priorities are and so forth. And I'm a big believer that if you give the voters the correct information, they are really smart and they always make the right decision if they get the facts. So let me read my response to you to question number 7 from the Stokes News whenever we ran the last time. It says, would you plan any changes in current taxes? And then it asks for a response. In my response, I said, yes, I would like to see some changes. I support the elimination of the dog tax that is currently levied by Stokes County. I would also like to lower the property tax rate in 2026
when the next revaluation occurs, where property values are formally updated. I do not think the property tax rate can be lowered before then, and I would like to keep it the same as it is now until then. I would like to I would look at the fire tax separately and make any adjustments to it based on the justifications submitted by the county's fire commission. I would support a 1/4 cent sales tax increase if the citizens voted for it in a referendum. My support for a voter-approved increase in sales tax would be to help reduce the property tax. Sales tax reduces the burden on landowners by collecting more tax from outside visitors in the county who also buy things here. So let me unpack this answer just a little bit. It says I would like to have kept the tax rate the same until the reval. I did the first year in my vote for that budget. In the second year, I voted to increase taxes, even though I had hoped not to have to do that. But there were several factors involved in that. First of all, we have an unfunded mandate to expand the courthouse over here. And the cost of that went from $8 to $11 million. So things like that, that's the reason I said last week as I was explaining the reval tax that I would never promise to lower taxes because I don't have a crystal ball. And I couldn't see that these kind of things were going to happen, that we're going to have a big increase there. We also had issues with emergency service, EMS, and the fire service that needed to be addressed. We had personnel turnover challenges that needed to be addressed, and we were dealing with Biden inflation. So that's the reason I never promised to reduce taxes. I always would make it my goal, is like I said, if I'd been doing that first card, I would probably left it if they changed the title. But you never know what's going to happen. Anybody that guarantees you they're going to reduce the property tax, I never vote for them because it means they don't know what they're doing. They don't have a clue what they're getting into. So now, given that, I think everybody should be pretty clear on what my position has been all along on taxes and property tax. Let me move to some additional misinformation that was not mentioned at the last meeting. This is a post I want to read from Mr. Andy Nicholson. This refers back to the second bullet on this card that the PAC put out, I think. And the bullet, I'll read it to you again. It says, "Fight to keep prayer before commissioner meeting and keep Stokes County a Second Amendment sanctuary." Okay, here is Mr. Nicholson's post. Let me explain the prayer part on their flyer, which was not their flyer, as I explained. When I became chairman on the board, Rick came to me after a meeting and asked me to bring up about taking the prayer out of the meetings, that it could bring a lawsuit. I probably had a discussion with on this topic with him. I don't remember the details of it exactly, but and then to continue what he said, I responded that the day we do this is the day I leave the board. He had a losing battle. So the next thing you know, we have an atheist group from Wisconsin contacting our attorney demanding we stop doing the prayer. And then he puts in parentheses, coincidence, I think not. Then the next paragraph is, at the polls, when they threw everything but the kitchen sink at me, I informed people how I fought to keep the prayer in the meetings and got their vote. Just before Election Day, this flyer came out. When I confronted Rick about that lie, he laughed. The last part doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what he's talking about. I would tell you, hang on just a second. I would tell you that if I brought that up to Andy, and I probably did, it was probably because the attorney had already told me that somebody else was challenging our prayer policy. I can't think of any other reason I would have mentioned it to Andy.
since I've been county manager and then also here as a commissioner, we've had numerous challenges to our prayer policy from various organizations and lots of discussion on it. My position has always been to keep the prayer on the agenda. You can verify that with Jimmy Walker and other previous commissioners on what my stance has been. But these challenges do raise the question of a possible litigation and the potential cost to taxpayers if we had to do that litigation. So what I'm saying there is it's come up many times, probably 4 or 5 times over the time that I've been associated with the local government. My position's always been the same on it, and we're still praying at the meetings, as you heard from Brad today. And if I'm not mistaken, the school board, and somebody can check me on this, has already changed their policy to remove prayer from the agenda just for the reason of avoiding possible litigation. I think I'm correct on that.
They still pray, but they don't have it on the agenda.
Yeah, they do it ahead of time. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
So for the record, I would consider this post from Mr. Nicholson as an attack on my religious freedom and Christianity. One of the first and the fondest memories I have of Stokes County was about 65 years ago, when I used to come up here and make the trip with my mother from Kernersville to go to the Buffalo Primitive Baptist Church on the Saturdays and Sundays. And it's over on 770, still open as far as I know. And we had all-day meetings with a big lunch, and it made quite an impression on me. Because me and my mother were tight when it came to our religion. If you'll check with my wife, you'll also find out that my normal Sunday routine is to avoid work, as the Bible tells us to do. And I listen to 3 sermons every Sunday. I listened at 9 o'clock on 98.1 from Galax, a sermon that comes out of Cincinnati, Ohio. I then go to Danbury Baptist Church with Keith and other folks that are in the room here tonight, and I listen to a sermon there. And then I rush home from church and I listen to my 3rd sermon from a church I used to go out to in Austin, Texas, and their sermons are on the internet every Sunday. And that is the highlight of my week. So I would just ask you, does that sound like a person who wants to remove prayer from the agenda? Well, the answer is no. I don't now, and I never have. Okay, now let's look at one additional misinformation post that also includes Miss Shelley Hightower Carter again, and let me read it to you. This one starts out and it's from Sherry Nicholson. It says, it's kind of hard to read, but I'll give it my best shot. Well, you can bet sweet butts that bunch has done nothing to help our businesses. Matter of fact, there was secret meetings, or so they thought was secret, and the main purpose was to get all of our businesses out of Stokes County. We have decided to expand. We'll be in Whitfield location. Tax rates are much cheaper there than are here now. I don't see how trying to kick businesses out of Stokes County is moving forward. And then Miss Shelley Hightower Carter, she says, wow, that may be why they raised property tax rate, to offset the losses from Nicholson. They crapped in their own yard doing that to y'all. Then Miss Nicholson replies back, we will keep what is here and not move that, but any expansions will be done elsewhere. And then our good friend Glenn Knox chimes in and says, I've heard the same thing for several other groups. There has to be some hidden reason why they are trying to get everyone out except River Street. RS is, I guess, River Street. So Glenn, I would just say if you have any details you'd like to provide us on your comment or evidence to prove it, we would be happy to have you back to speak to us and present that to us. In closing, I would like to inform the 16,000 plus registered Republicans in Stokes County that we held the annual Republican County Convention this past Saturday. About 150 people attended the convention, and about 100 of them elected Miss Shelley Hightower Carter as the chair of the Stokes County Republican Party for the next 2 years. She ran on a platform of uniting the party. Go figure. Since their massive losses in the past election, there is nothing the three of us, and I'm talking about Brad and Keith and I, could do to obtain her group's support. It would be harder than President Trump getting the Democrats to stand up at his meeting that he did to the joint session of Congress a couple of a week or so ago. I would guess that probably out of that 16,000 plus, almost 17,000 registered Republicans that are in the county, I would say 16,000 of them probably were not even aware that we were having a convention this past weekend. That's a big problem and one that we need to address. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Brad? I want to welcome everybody here tonight. It's good to see a good crowd and look forward to the Eagle Scouts presentation. That's good stuff. Kind of like what I always kind of pay attention, especially to public safety. And I got to say that past 2 weeks here in North Carolina, we've had 2 officers physically attacked, shot. Those 2 were in Charlotte, and from my former department, we had an officer attacked Friday night, early Saturday morning with a firearm. Luckily, the guy missed, but the officer didn't. So he got away with scrapes, and even though he come out the victor in the battle, him and his family will suffer mentally for going through that traumatic event. And you know what? The one in Fayetteville, be stopped for speeding, 100 mile an hour. And he comes out with a handgun to kill the police officer. So again, I want to make sure everyone keeps our prayers and thoughts, especially here in Stokes County, for our public safety officials. And that's as I ran in the campaign, that was one of my priorities too, was public safety. So the tax rate stuff, I don't take anything personal. I mean, back in for fiscal year 22, when sort of been the previous board, when they gave their budget recommendation, they had the public hearing. I was the only person that showed up. I talked, so I know where y'all are coming from. And my thing was that I wanted you to go revenue neutral. I mean, by law, you have to consider it, but it really didn't seem to me that they were going to consider it. The only thing that I got was they were going to keep the tax rate the same. Sound familiar? So then when they passed the budget, they passed the budget just under the revaluation. In other words, that was in the 4-year revaluation. Prices went up. Guess what else went up? Taxes went up. But I swear, I didn't have anybody, I didn't see anybody show up here saying the things and going back to a campaign about this and that. We didn't hear that. Our taxes went up that year, but they kept the tax rate the same. Now, we're trying to bring the tax rate down as much as possible to revenue neutral. I don't like paying taxes either. My taxes went up a little over 45%. I don't get any special break being a commissioner. I'll pay the same taxes as everybody else. And I'm not wealthy. I had to work a lot of jobs and go through a lot of headaches, go up the chain of command to get promoted. If it wasn't for the money, I'd say the patrol officer. That's the best job to have, because you don't have the politics. You just follow the law. And then when you get up higher, and then you get in positions of we sit in these seats, it's a hard job. So let me say this, and I'm gonna try to say it tactfully. Sometimes I have a hard time being tactful. But when I first took a seat here, and I was actually able to see things and ask questions where I'd get responses to, I was shocked at the lack of, and I'm gonna call support, I'll say financial support, the lack of financial support for the sheriff's office, for the jail, for EMS, and our fire departments. Shocked. And I'm going to mention your name here a minute, if you don't mind, Glenn. And I'll allow you to speak up if it's a lie, okay? So, about that, not too much longer after I got seated, one of the first things, and what I'm about to say has nothing to do with the employees of Stokes County. Nothing. It's about the restraints or constraints that they were put under. So one of the first things that become so obvious and so dramatic at times was the lack of a IT network. The network was patched up. There was no training, outside training provided to our IT people. They were understaffed. They were overwhelmed. And so we were immediately tasked as a board to take action, to try to, and I'm talking about almost every department head. I didn't even know them at the time. Would come up, and one of the first things they would say, we've got problems with this, that, with IT. And the most important thing that knew I had to do immediate looking into was from the sheriff's office. The computer system in the sheriff's office was the network itself was not kept up to date with proper module updates. So in effect, in 2021, 2022, you're looking at the very probably last update where the Stokes County paid any money for the company to do the police network was probably, 2010, 2011. It was horrible. Our deputies did have a laptop, but our deputies, when they go take a report, they free write it. They had no internet connectivity, and then it would go back into the office, and instead of the report being done and the supervisor just have to proofread it and then approve it, and it goes into the network, the RMS system. No, it goes to a clerical person at the sheriff's office, and they sit and type it. So anyway, I got to know Glenn, because what we did immediately is, I think the county manager was Shannon at the time, came to us and said, hey, we have an opportunity with some, and I didn't even know Glenn. We have an opportunity with somebody that is really, it's an expert. It's his field. He works for the state currently. He's already worked with the board some, with some IT projects. And I'm thinking, okay. And so Glenn was working for the state. Long story short, he says, hey, I would like to give back to Stokes County. I live here. I said, I'll leave the state and I'll come work Stokes County. So we did a special contract for him. So we paid Glenn over $100,000. Pardon me? 98? Okay, $98,000 to come to work here. We gave him benefits. health insurance, sick time, right on down the board. So then we created a little office for Glenn over here. And when I would come in, I was just trying to get used to everything. And of course, every time I come in the building, your department heads and the county manager, they're typing whatever happened yesterday. Hand typing the computer. There was no plans. I would go in to Glenn's office and we would sit and we would talk about the nightmare, what we were in the position of lack of support here in Stokes County. And so, I'm not going to go into every department and tell, because you know what, it's documented. If you want to go in and read some reports, because when we first got seated, every department head came in front of us to say where we're at and what we need and where we've been. And there was not one department that was in any decent shape. Training. Every single department, when I first budget I looked at, had $4,000 for training. $4,000 for training for public safety is not a lot of money, people. But what's worse is they never spent $4,000 on training. They always had to spend it on file cabinets, paper. Instead of spending it on software, where the rest of the world was at, we were still doing that. And then every time I would ask a question, why, to the department head, why do we do this way? The way it's always been done in Stokes County. So, when I went back and looked at some prior budgets, I don't know what they spent the money on. Wasn't salaries. Sure wasn't equipment. And do y'all realize that Stokes County was the only county in the state of North Carolina that was still, our county website, the old one, the one, and I mean old, I mean it was in like 2020, 2021. The state finally had to tell the county, you can't, we're not supporting that network anymore on the website that you're on. You've got to get your own website. So we did actually do like every other county and actually spent a few dollars, at least got a website. But even then, it still lacks a lot. And Glenn knows that. And we could go on and on and on. But if you don't have an IT network, especially in these days and times, you're not supporting your workforce. And you're especially not supporting public safety, because that's a lifeline for public safety. That stuff costs money. So we started to plan and have to spend money to improve Stokes County, just to get it up to a level to where we feel like there's a level of safety and security for our employees, and especially our public safety people. The difference between then and now is that, number one, we now have a strategic plan. For the past 2 budget years, we come in, and it's usually around this time, and that's when, and the first thing that the manager, whoever the manager was, would say, well, what are each members looking for? In other words, well, let's see, I think one year we were going back and forth, let's keep the fund balance at least 20% or 21% or 22%. And then it just kind of goes from there. And then you can't think just in the current year what you're going to spend money on. So then when I took the seat in 22, and I'm not blaming the previous board for this. The state just told them, hey, you're going to add to the courthouse. And I'm not saying they need it, they don't need it, but they were told, you got to add on to the courthouse. Okay? We don't have the money to pay for it without raising taxes. Because we got other things going on too. And I could go on and on. In summary, what I'm trying to say is, people, if there's a better way that if you want me to cut the sheriff's office, tell me how many deputies you want cut. You want to cut EMS? You don't want to have paramedics? Tell me how many paramedics you want us to cut. And you're going to get an opportunity to do that, because if you've been watching what the manager has been putting together and proposing, there'll be surveys going out. We got metrics. There's going to be accountability to the funds that are going to go out, and your input will be greatly appreciated, because we'll do what you want. And if there's certain levels of service that you don't need, if you don't think you need fire service during the day, then duly noted, and we can reduce the fire service tax. I'll say this again. Residential development does not pay for itself for a county. Residential developments that go on and property taxes alone will not, and it's not just me saying it, you can check with the County Board of Commissioner Association, you don't get the money out of all the services that you have to provide. It just doesn't. I can't help. I mean, I live in the northern part of the county. I didn't want to live in an urban area. It's one of the reasons I came to Stokes County. Rural county, good people, but I get it. People that own land, you can't tell them what to do with the land. And I hate that. I really do. So I try to do what's best for the county. I love this county. It's got to move forward, and I'm not a politician. I hate that word, but I'm going to tell you how I feel, and I'm going to do the right thing. And it's very easy for people to always vote no for tax increases, especially if they know other people are going to vote yes. I can't. I'm not one of those. I'm not that somebody. And I get it. I've been told we've had meetings here before. I've been told that I'm done. You'll never get elected in this county again. And that person may be right. And I would have been done after 4 years. That was the commitment I gave my wife. Y'all will get a chance to vote. Vote me out, and I'll congratulate the winner, and I'll go back to my farm. I really will, because doing this and trying to be honest is hard, very hard. And just because they say that, hey, they promised to lower the tax rate, I mean, I'm telling you why. We're in bad shape when it comes to still getting caught up with training, equipment. We can't fill deputy positions. Having a hard time filling jail officer positions. We have a hard time filling positions in DSS. These aren't positions that are voluntarily that we have to provide. The state says we have to provide those positions. If anybody here in Stokes County wants to volunteer and work for free or work for minimum wage, I'm sure that the manager will find our HR director and get you an application. We can't be the highest paid, but we can't be the poorest paid either. And we've got to pay an adequate wage, but we have expectations that comes from accountability. long story short, I'll do everything I can to keep the tax rate as low and going back to revenue neutral. If you go on our webpage, our webpage now, the manager has we've got a 5-year plan now. Take a look at it. And it has the financial outlook. It has what we as the Board of Commissioners in our last strategic plan highlighted as priorities as what needs to be done. Read it, and if anybody has any idea of what slots that we can cut, most of them are mandated by the state, let us know. I don't like paying the tax rate that I pay either. And it really gets me upset when I pay for taxes, but I don't get service when I pick up the phone and call. That's what irritates me. And I got a feeling it irritates a lot of people because I get a lot of phone calls about that, especially with fire service. During the week, during the day, we got a problem. Whether or not we're going to fix it, I don't know. We're going to try. But just burying our head in the sand and saying that everything's hunky-dory, we're a rural county, there's no problems. There are problems here in Stokes County. Just because you don't hear of a murder happening in Stokes County, yeah, they're having murders in Stokes County. It's just not put out. Stokes County hasn't reported crimes to the state in years. I think the last time they reported crime was when Sheriff Marshall was the sheriff. And the reason that I got when I asked about it was because it said, well, we don't have the software to do it. We're so far behind with NIBRS. That's the new system that was supposed to be in play 3 years ago. Things aren't cheap, and things aren't free. You're not going to complain until you call 911 and the sheriff says all my deputies are, the dispatcher will tell you all the deputies are busy on the north side and they got to go to Pine Hall. What do? You wait. Because maybe they're only running 2 deputies at night because sick call, time off. So all I ask, just keep it policy driven, please. I'll stand on policy. I don't hate anybody in this room. I was at the county convention. I don't hate anybody at the county. I mean, some people will walk by me, and I used to say hi to him, but he would never say anything. Anybody I walk by, I smile and say hi, even though I know what they say on social media or what. I don't care. I'm used to that. I'm a cop. You go to a call, you can't please everybody. You do what's right, and also be safe and go home. And that's my outlook. And I really, really do. I really hope that our new chair does bring the party together, because we do need the party together. One last example, I'm not going to say it, but just, we hear you, thanks for coming, and you know, we're doing the best we can, but it's not like that we don't have things that we're trying to play catch up on. Just like our schools. Schools are a lot of our schools are in disrepair. There's way too many schools for the amount of populations, and that's another story that has to be told. But you see, no one wants to address that stuff because that, as we saw with the last thing, that ruins political careers. Because you got to take a stand. And people want political careers and don't want to take a stand. But I hear you with your taxes, thank you. I'll do whatever I can. But I'm not laying off any sheriff's deputies. I'm not laying off any paramedics. I may get outvoted, but I'm gonna do the right thing, and I'm not gonna not put SROs in the elementary schools. All that stuff costs money, and we do that, and we're actually ahead of the game with that because a lot of counties don't do that.
there's certain hills that I'm willing to die on. And public safety is a hill I'm willing to die on. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm done.
I got just a couple of things I missed.
How quick
Very,
is-
very short.
How quick it better be,
Very
or I'm
short.
gonna put that gavel down.
In the Stokes News answer I gave, I said I was gonna try to lower the property tax rate in the reval. And based on what I've seen from Jeff so far, county manager, and we'll see how it all comes out with the budget discussion, we may lower the tax rate lower than it's ever been lowered in Stokes County before, based on the preliminary information I've seen. And I'm planning on doing that. I'm planning on the biggest rate reduction that I can make, just as I promised. Second thing that's really important is, and I overlooked it, so I was in a hurry, but this board, none of these members of this board are having any secret meetings to run businesses out of the county. That is the absolute dumbest thing I've ever heard. We're not having secret meetings, period. And if 3 of us were to have a secret meeting, that would be illegal. And we're not voting, we're not breaking laws and having illegal secret meetings either. And then just to follow up on one thing Brad said, the county manager is going to give us a really good proposed budget shortly here, and we're going to have a public hearing on it, just like we're required to do every year. I've been to, most of them I've been to had nobody there, maybe one person come. It would really be nice to have all the people that have all this criticism to show up at that public hearing and tell us what you would like us to do with the budget. That's all I have.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody, and I'm not gonna say another word. I got something I wanna read, but I'm gonna save it for next meeting. It's about the growth in this state. I read an article this week, it just scares me, but I'm gonna save it for next week. Next meeting, excuse me. Conflict.
See, Jeff has a comment.
Who?
See, Jeff.
Oh, yeah, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one thing I'd like to comment on. We are on pace and on schedule with our budget development. Earlier today, we wrapped up the budget reviews with all of our internal departments, the Sheriff's Office, the Register of Deeds, and Cooperative Extension. And I want to publicly thank all of our department heads. I think that the work that they put into that analysis really facilitated a healthy discussion. And you know, by and large across the board. And we don't really know exactly how it all came out yet, because we haven't had the time to fully analyze that. But it looks to me like the results on the expenditure side are going to be a little bit better than what was presented to you in the forecast for FY26 a couple of weeks ago. And as you recall, we're also working on a comprehensive review of our fees and charges across county government, and we're getting closer to completing that task as well, and that's also going to help on the revenue side. So more to follow, but all looks pretty good right now.
Amber?
I don't have any comments at this time. Thank you.
Conflict of interest. Before moving further, does any board member have a conflict with any of the items on the agenda for tonight, or one that might be perceived as a conflict of interest? No. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
One question I have.
Okay.
I just want to clarify on the budget amendment in there on the animal shelter. The price is now 1.9 million for the animal shelter, right? In this,
Be sure, yeah.
You know, has contingency built in.
yeah. You called that, Amber, I think in your notes you called it a conservative estimate. Is it like it's a real conservative? It's like it's not going to be overrun.
It shouldn't. There's a couple of contingencies built in there that the
Okay.
architects gave us.
Okay.
So it has a couple of different ones for different sections in the process.
Okay. We're going to pay for that out of the general fund so we can get started quicker on it, right? Okay, good. That's my only question. So, where were we?
All in favor?
All in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
So that brings us to our information agenda. We want to recognize Eagle Scouts for last year. I don't have to tell y'all how important scouting is to me. I was raised in it. I did not make Eagle. I made Life back then, and I'm not taking anything away from your Eagle, cause that should be one of the greatest things you ever earned. But I'm not a good swimmer. I went to the Y. I went to Raven Knob. I went everywhere, and nobody could get me to swim good enough to get life-saving and swimming merit badge. So I'm stuck with 10 zillion merit badges and no Eagle. So we'd like to recognize our Eagles. Amber?
Yeah, and when I call your name, if you don't mind coming down here, I'm just getting your certificate.
You want us to go down there?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Here's the.
All of us to go down there.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, then we can. They can take any pictures. If anybody wants to take any pictures, feel free to do that. Here's that. They should be in order as being called. Let's see. That's fine. Taylor Jones. Eagle date of February 5th, 2024, and the project name was Blessing Box at Capella Church of Christ.
Taylor's not here tonight.
Okay. Jake Petrie. Eagle date of February 8th, 2024, and the project name was Food and Book Donation Boxes at Chestnut Grove Church. Nathan Martin. Eagle date of May 17th, 2024, Hanging Rock State Park Campfire Edition.
We have to take a knee.
Matthew Dodson, Eagle date of August 22nd, 2024. Stokes Early College High School Sign Landscaping was the project name.
You want to come up here and get a picture?
It's not as tall, so we need
I'm telling you.
Always is.
Alright. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Taylor Thornton, Eagle date of August 22nd, 2024, in the Free Little Library. Yeah. Thank you all.
Okay, the next thing on the information agenda is the presentation of the 23-24 audit. Ellie, you are up.
Good evening, everyone. How do I bring it up?
It should just be the next slide.
There we go. My name is Kelly Gooderham. I'm your senior audit manager on the county's audit, and we have prepared the following PowerPoint to present what we feel to be some of the more pertinent topics of the fiscal year 24 audit. So your report has been issued to the LGC, although we are awaiting approval any day now. We have issued with a clean, unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that we can provide. So this first slide just gives you the breakdown of your fund balance classifications. So first we have your non-spendable fund balance, which includes your inventories and your lease receivables. Then we have your restricted fund balance, which is comprised of your stabilization by state statute of $3.7 million. The all others includes your mental health MOE of $155,000, your health department Title IV of $1.2 million, and then your restricted debt service of $2.9 million. And then we have your assigned fund balance of $11 million, with an overall unassigned fund balance of $6.7 million, for a total of $25.8 million for the general fund. And this shows your available fund balance as defined by the LGC. So again, we have your non-spendables and then your stabilization by state statute to arrive at your available fund balance of $22 million, which was an overall increase of a little less than $49,000 over the prior year. And then we take that available fund balance and turn it into a percentage of expenditures, transfers out, and debt proceeds. The LGC utilizes this to compare units across the state, similar to their overall available fund balance as well. So as you can see, it remained pretty consistent over the last 3 years, a 4% increase from 22 to 23, and then just a 1% decrease from 23 to 24. And then this gives you a 4-year comparison of Stokes County to a similar population group. This comes directly from the LGC's website from your AFIR, your annual financial information report. So as you can see, the county's at the bottom, statewide is a little bit above, and then obviously the population group is a little above that as well. And then we'll go over your general fund revenues and expenditures as compared to the prior year. Overall revenues increased around $2.6 million or 6%, which was primarily due to an increase in your investment earnings as well as your property tax increase. Increase in expenditures of $1.3 million or 3%, which was primarily due to an increase in your general government as well as your human services. Some additional items to note, you had, again, this is all within the general fund, you had a total transfer in of $4 million with a total transfer out to other funds of $2.4 million. Your leases and subscription liabilities was $225,000, and then your installment proceeds ended at $1.1 million for an overall change in net position of $1.4 million. So then we'll go through your top, I believe it's 4 revenues and expenditures. First, we have your ad valorem tax revenues, which increased around $1.2 million or 8%, which was primarily due to an increase in your collections since you didn't have a property tax rate increase for 24. And then your intergovernmental revenues actually decreased around $635,000 or 6%, which was due to a decrease in your Medicaid hold harmless distribution over the prior year. Your sales and services also increased $126,000 or 3%, which was due to an increase in your rents, concessions, and fees. And then other taxes and licenses also increased $698,000 or 7%, which was due to an increase in your local option sales tax, which was pretty commonly seen in the last couple of years. Then now for your general fund expenditures, human services increased $1.2 million or 11%, which was due to an increase in your social services department expenditures. Public safety actually decreased $244,000 or 2%, which was due to a decrease in your emergency medical services as well as emergency communications. And then education expenditures increased around $14,000 or 4%, which was due to an increase in your school current expense. And then lastly, we have your general government increased around $1.2 million or 16%, which was due to an increase in your insurance and finance department expenditures. And then lastly, we'll go through your performance indicators as defined by the LGC's data input sheet. So we always submit your data input sheet along with your audit report to the LGC, but recently the LGC has added a little bit more information to this worksheet to just allow for some more transparency and oversight by the LGC. So we are required to Inform the board for each audit presentation any of these financial performance indicators or indicators of concern. So first, we did note a high quick ratio for your water sewer funds. We noted a stable available fund balance percentage. We also noted 2 significant deficiency findings and 3 material weakness findings. Some additional items to note that I wanted to point out was your operating net income or loss actually in your water sewer fund ended at a negative, which is similar to how it was last year. And I believe finance is working on resolving this. And then you also had a declining water sewer fund asset condition noted on the LGC's data input sheet. The LGC is normally concerned with anything less than 0.5. You are currently at 0.59, which just indicates that there's likely going to be some asset replacement or repairs in the near future. So all of your financial performance indicators of concerns are required to be responded to the LGC within 60 days of this audit presentation. And I believe Tracy and Tammy are already working on that. And are there any questions?
Thank you for a good report, good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's always a great report from you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's always a pleasure working with you all.
Yeah, dude. Thanks, Kelly. It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
Is the quick ratio for that water sewer thing, is the ideal number 1 being a 1?
Oh, I usually have that information in front of me. No, it's larger than that. But I don't recall off the top of my head.
You said it's like 0.5 is okay.
Oh, that was for your water sewer assets. So that's basically taking your gross value of your water sewer assets less your accumulated depreciation. So if it looks like they're getting down to being fully depreciated, then the LGC is just kind of taking that as you should probably look into some additional infrastructure or repairs or even full-on replacement.
Okay, does that quick ratio have anything to do with all this construction we're doing for water sewer?
The quick ratio is actually just your current assets and your current liabilities. So the asset condition.
Across the board?
Yeah. Okay. And then the asset condition just takes your capital assets. So if the Meadows community project and all of that, that should help because right now all of that is ongoing projects. And so none of that is being depreciated. It's just purely in your construction in progress. And so that's not taking that into account. Yeah.
Okay, one last question. On the chart you showed with comparing us to the population group in the state.
Sure.
Can you bring that one back up?
Sure.
Hey, that 30%, is that the same line that the LGC measures, and when you get down to 8%, they get upset with you? Or is it different?
This is literally just comparing units and statewide to that comparison or to that population group. As far as if you are in a healthy standpoint, it varies. I mean, point blank, it varies because right now you all have a lot of projects ongoing, some of which are being funded by the general fund. And so that really is going to be a major factor in current year expenditures, your current year ending fund balance. And so this is just showing you where you are with similar population groups. And I'm actually not, off the top of my head, I cannot remember if that differentiates between municipalities within the same population group or counties. I honestly can't remember. But that's just showing you the best way that you can compare Stokes County because everybody's different and everybody has different situations. You all have a 5-year plan, so that is definitely just a snapshot in time.
Our line being down where it is really no concern.
Not necessarily, no. And it would have popped out in the LGC's data input sheet. I know I've said that several times. The data input sheet, that would actually pop out. I don't remember off the top of my head what minimum that the LGC starts getting concerned. But that whole 8% thing, that is, the way they look at it is 8% equates to roughly 1 month's worth of expenditures on hand. And so if you get below 8%, then that's red flag saying that you don't have enough cash to pay for your current bills.
So one last question. On those first two charts you showed about the fund balance, are any of those numbers on there the one that reflects that, like that 3 months amount of fund balance that we could basically spend? If it's not restricted, we could spend it if we wanted to?
Are you referring to your unassigned fund balance right there?
Yeah, I guess so.
One thing to note on this, your assigned fund balance, if I remember right, your assigned fund balance is your assigned for subsequent years expenditures, and that comes from your fiscal year 25 budget ordinance. So assigned, committed as well, although committed is less less appropriate in your general fund. That's usually a capital project fund, committed for capital purposes. Your assigned fund balance and your committed fund balance is dictated by you all. The committed, not necessarily. If you are contractually obligated, then it is what it is. But your assigned fund balance and your unassigned fund balance, if you wish to have more in your unassigned fund balance, then you just change what you've assigned.
Okay.
So that is within your realm of control. All the other ones, no. The restricted is external restrictions.
They have so many different ones. It's kind of
You do.
confusing on
Correct.
what we should, when we do our budget, what percentage we should have and what amount we should have in there.
Now, the LGC does not look at a percentage when it comes to unassigned fund balance. They are only looking at your available fund balance. And your available fund balance only takes into account your stabilization by state statute and your non-spendables.
Okay.
So in the LGC's eyes, see, you've got unassigned fund balance of 6.7. The LGC is more looking at, you've got available fund balance of 22 million.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes you feel a little bit better.
That's good. That's all I need to know. Thank you again.
Any other questions?
Thank you. What I like is it's very easy to follow.
We try.
You get the what I consider the most important.
And you keep it simple.
Yeah.
One quick question before you sit down. I keep hearing about the state making additional requirements and stuff that makes everybody's life miserable.
That's every year.
What can we expect for 25? Are y'all up to date on all that? Is what's coming?
So the major thing that's going to be coming in 25 is compensated absences, and really that's going to be a headache for finance, but it's not nearly as bad as it has been for GASB standards. GASB 96 and 87, when we dealt with leases and subscriptions, I'm sure Tracy can definitely speak to that. Those were the big ones that took a lot of work, a lot of effort on finance's part. Compensated absences, not so much. But there's always new challenging things when it comes to grants. Each grant has their own set of requirements, and it takes some learning, it takes manpower, lots of manpower, and lots of correspondence. But as far as any big changes, it's usually the GASB standards that are the biggest ones. And I will say this, I don't know if you all are aware of this, the LGC has actually extended its due date. It used to be 10/31 or 12/1, and then you had to have an amended contract. Now it's 12/31, so it gives us a little bit of a cushion. Not that we're trying to take that cushion by any stretch, because nobody wants to work during Christmas, but that is at least showing us that the LGC is listening to some of the local governments. So
Target's still October 31st, though.
no, the target. Well, for us, the target is going to be issue as soon as possible. So we are actually discussing internal due dates because, again, nobody wants to work during Christmas. But at least it gives us a little bit of a cushion to get, some of our bigger clients out the door.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Discussion agenda. Amber.
Yes. So we advertised for the Parks and Rec Steering Committee from the past 4 weeks, and we received 11 different applications for the 9 different slots from the community members. If you remember, there's 2 that'll be county employees on there. That'll be Tori and Stewart for the parks to represent tourism in the parks. So we received 11 applications for those 9 slots. So I would just request that somebody make a motion to nominate all of them at this time, and then we will poll next time for the different 9 slots.
So moved. Can I just say one thing? So, I reviewed the applications, and some sent resumes, and I know some of these people personally through coming here, and some people have come here very passionate about parks, that what they do in Stokes County. So my question would be, normally we have a hard time on committees getting people interested in serving on committees. And this is not a paid committee. Is there why can't we make it an 11-person committee instead of 9? Everybody had something positive to say and has their own attribute of being able to contribute to this. The ones that make the final decision were right up here, sitting here. But I think that it gives another level of expertise. I know one gentleman doesn't live in the city, but he does a lot of things in the city, and I think it's a value that everybody has a little part in what can make this to better.
There's been discussions of that. That's certainly up to the board. It's not in stone. It's just a steering committee, so it's the board's committee, so to speak, just to get input on that.
Input, please. No, not talking.
No, I don't see a problem with it.
Sometimes when committees get too big, it becomes unwielding, but going from 9 to 11 doesn't seem like a big deal to me. We got 11 people that are interested.
And odds are some of the people won't even come to the meetings.
Yeah, some of them drop out. Sometimes you have to miss a meeting. So.
Right, yeah. I just hate that if these are got some energy here, and I just hate to cut it off.
Yeah, that's certainly not a
Have
problem.
no problem.
If that's what the board wants to do.
Yeah, I don't have any problem either way.
Okay.
It's a lot, but like you say,
Yeah, I agree.
It's probably rare. After a while, interest wanes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It might fall off.
It's more to gather feedback and get input anyway. So
Yeah.
if they're not voting on anything, or it's not like the Board of Health or anything like that. So.
Thank you.
So have I got a motion to nominate all apps?
So moved, that's it.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll move to action for next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Action agenda, JCP appointment request.
I make a motion that we have Caleb Bohannon and B.J. Hayes nominated. So if we're polling, I'll say Bohannon and Hayes.
Bohannon and Hayes.
Bohannon and Hayes.
Bohannon Hayes.
Bohannon and Hayes.
Haynes, I should say.
Haynes.
Yeah, Bohannon and Haynes. Yeah. No, you're good. All right, thank you.
We got next is the resolution proclaiming Farmers Appreciation Day in Stokes County.
So I'm gonna read that.
Can you read that?
Yep, I'll read it. whereas the County of Stokes, the Stokes Soil and Water Conservation District, the Cooperative Extension, the Farm Service Agency, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and the NC Forest Service desire to host the Farmer Appreciation Day to recognize the contributions of our farmers to Stokes County, and whereas the Board of Commissioners recognizes that the county's farmers contribute greatly to Stokes County's economic base, and whereas the board believes that all county citizens benefit from farming activities in some manner, and whereas the board agrees that a Farmer Appreciation Day would show our county's support for the existing farming community and honor past activities that have contributed so much to the culture and heritage of Stokes County, and whereas the board recognizes and appreciates the local businesses within the county that provides the funding for a barbecue and chicken dinner with live entertainment to be held at North Stokes High School with all Stokes County citizens invited. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Stokes County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaims Thursday, April the 10th, 2025 as Farmer Appreciation Day in Stokes County, and extends its appreciation and gratitude to the farmers for their many contributions to Stokes County.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Sign the paper. Is that the one we're supposed to sign?
Yes.
All right.
Everybody has to do it.
Motion to adjourn from
I'll
someone.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.